the CBS Broadcast Center in Los Angeles, this is CBS2 News at 5 p.m.
An accused shoplifter is killed inside a Hollywood drugstore, but questions are being raised about the security guard who pulled the trigger. Some people are asking why the guard had a gun in the first place.
And we have cell phone video that may give detectives some crucial clues.
CBS 2's Dave Lopez is live at the Walgreens in Hollywood tonight. Dave.
Well, Pat, this Walgreens is right in the middle of Hollywood, Sunset and Vine. It's still closed. It'll reopen tomorrow. You can see a number of people inside. Investigators have long gone. They have also taken security video. And you asked the poignant question, why does a security guard in this type of setting have a weapon? We couldn't get an answer to that. We can tell you the man who was killed, we have been told, is homeless. He also suffered from schizophrenia. And the security guard has fully cooperated and has not been arrested.
Is he going to be all right?
Cell phone video shows a man identified by friends as Sky, who they say was unarmed, slumped on the floor of a Walgreens at the corner of Sunset and Vine in Hollywood. Witnesses, at least 5, told detectives the man had been shot by a security guard inside the store. Sky was rushed to the hospital where he later died. You plainly saw the gun.
Yes, and he had a taser too. I don't know why he didn't use his taser.
Nathan, who shot the cell phone video, did not want to give his last name. He said he was with Sky when the security guard went up to him and accused him of trying to steal items. He said Sky pushed the security guard. They argued, and then
he saw the security guard reaching, and then he just shot him.
How many shots were fired? One shot?
Yeah.
That was it?
Yeah.
Sky turned around to make a dart for the door.
This woman, who said she's a friend of Sky and was with him, told the same story. Sky shoved the security guard, went running toward the door, and was shot while running away.
Sir. Bro.
Do not touch him.
The cell phone video shows a security guard leaning over Sky, and then he yells for people to get away.
Damn, back up.
We don't know if that's a security guard who did the shooting, and we wanted to know, why is a security guard armed inside a store like this? LAPD wouldn't answer that question either. However, experts we talked to in the security business said as long as the security guard are properly licensed by the state, they can carry weapons, and oftentimes do, depending upon where they work. The only requirement by state law, that weapon must be clearly visible. It cannot be concealed.
Oh, the gun is exposed. It's on his hip.
B told me he goes into this Walgreens almost every day, and he often sees the security guard with his weapon. Another customer told me the crime rate in this store is high.
But I see guys come out here with like armloads full of stuff, just walk out the door.
LAPD confirms Sky did not have a weapon. His friends say he wasn't stealing. And there is security video inside the store that the LAPD has. And, of course, that video has not been released. This statement late this afternoon from Walgreens, which reads in part, "We're deeply concerned about this incident and the loss of life. We're gathering facts and fully cooperating with law enforcement in the ongoing investigation of the incident. The safety and security of all our customers and employees is our top priority." Again, no mention about the security of the security guard, why he had a weapon in the first place, how long he's worked here with a weapon, and how long he's been licensed to carry that weapon. All those questions unanswered. Reporting live from Hollywood, I'm Dave Lopez, CBS 2 News.
Dave, thank you. We have breaking news in South L.A. Detectives are trying to track down the people who killed a woman and injured another woman in a drive-by shooting. Officers rushed to 88th and Broadway just after noon. The LAPD says a 48-year-old woman died at the hospital. Another was grazed by a bullet. Police say they're looking for 2 men who sped away in an older model Ford F-150 pickup.
Developing news now in South L.A. The death of a 4-year-old girl is now being investigated as a homicide, and her father is under arrest. Early yesterday, paramedics were called to a house on 42nd Street. They found the little girl, Zarelia Thompson, unresponsive in the bathroom. Investigators say the child's father was inside the home at the time, along with 2 other relatives. That father, 23-year-old Charles Richard Lee, has now been arrested on a felony charge, child abuse resulting in death. He is being held on $1 million bail.
A solemn ceremony as the body of former President George H.W. Bush is brought to Lyon State in the nation's capital. Tonight, the body of the 41st President of the United States is in that flag-draped casket in the Capitol Rotunda.
Now, this is a live picture as an honor guard stands at attention. Red, white, and blue wreaths are placed at the casket's side.
CBS 2 political reporter Dave Bryan is here with a look at What happened today, Dave?
Yeah, it really has been quite a day in the nation's capital, and particularly because so many memories were flowing from President Bush. Former President George Herbert Walker Bush spent most of his adult life in public service, so in a fitting tribute, his body was returned to the nation's capital, where he served 4 years as the President of the United States. It was a send-off fit for a president as the nation honors and remembers President George Herbert Walker Bush. His final journey to Washington, D.C. began in Houston this morning with full military honors at Ellington Field Joint Base Reserve. Well-wishers and the Bush family looked on. A naval hymn played in remembrance of the 41st president's service as a Navy pilot. Mr. Bush was the last U.S. president to serve in World War II. Similar tributes met the president's body at the Joint Base Andrews, through the streets of Washington and to the U.S. Capitol. President Bush's casket was ceremoniously brought into the rotunda inside the Capitol. Members of Congress, guests, and the family solemnly looked on. Son George W. Bush, who served as the 43rd President of the United States, maintained a stiff upper lip as leaders praised his father's legacy.
Today, this hero has returned to the Capitol a final time. Not on the front porch of our democracy this time, but here in its hallowed cathedral.
President Bush personified grace. His character was second to none. He reached the heights of power with uncommon humility.
Red, white, and blue wreaths were placed along the casket. President Bush's family members were first to file past their patriarch, then congressional leaders and all Supreme Court justices except Ruth Bader Ginsburg filed past the casket and paid their respects to the former president when the ceremony concluded. Music played as people remained silent surrounding the flag-draped casket. Now, the 41st president will lie in state on Capitol Hill until Wednesday morning, and then later on Wednesday, a funeral service will be held at the National Cathedral. Pat, back to you.
All right, thank you, Dave. Now, here's a moment in LA history with number 41. President George H.W. Bush toured South LA 1 week after the devastating 1992 riots. He visited Koreatown and met with local leaders to discuss the situation. During the visit, President Bush said he had faith the community would rebuild. Because many Korean Americans were targeted, he also stressed his belief that everyone can live the American dream.
I want you to know ahead at 5:15, the loyal companion, an image of the president's service dog lying by his casket. It's gone viral. The story behind this picture ahead, and we'll have continuing coverage as a nation pays tribute to our 41st president, remembering the legacy of George H.W. Bush.
A bizarre confrontation led to an officer-involved shooting in Rialto. A suspect was shot after he tried to attack officers with his truck. CBS2 Inland Empire reporter Tina Patel is live in Rialto with new information. Tina.
Yeah, the Sheriff's Department and Police Department just wrapped up their investigation at this home behind me. We are told by neighbors that a couple in their 80s live here. The man who was shot was their son, and that this isn't the first time he's had problems with police. You can see the headlights in this security video as 53-year-old David Gonzalez starts driving his truck back and forth across his mother's property just after midnight. Neighbors tell us they called police when the constant engine revving wouldn't stop. They were told officers were already on their way, that Gonzalez's family had also called them asking for help. But those officers couldn't get Gonzalez to stop and get out of his truck.
Put the weapon down, and the man wasn't complying. They told him like at least 6 times, and he wouldn't comply.
One officer drove onto the property, but Gonzalez rammed his truck into the patrol car, pushing it into the side of the house. Police say that's when they were forced to open fire.
The suspect backed up his vehicle as if to either strike him again or maybe strike the now second officer who was on scene, or even make good an escape.
Neighbors tell us there was at least 7 or 8 shots. They say it was frightening because they didn't know who was doing the shooting.
Those gunshots could have ricocheted, went through the wall, anything.
Police say Gonzalez was hit at least once, but was still not cooperating. So eventually they sent in a canine to subdue him. He's now being treated at the hospital for the gunshot and dog bite, but he is expected to survive.
I could see everything. When they took the man, I could see the cop. I saw everything.
Now, police would not tell us whether this man had any criminal history, whether they'd been called to this home before, but they do say they're looking into the possibility that he was under the influence when all this happened. Live in Rialto, Tina Patel, CBS 2 News.
Tina, thanks. A former Beverly Hills police captain has settled a discrimination suit with that city. Former Captain Mark Rosen held a news conference with his lawyers today in downtown L.A. The 60-year-old claimed that he was discriminated against because of his age and his Jewish faith. Rosen alleged that he was denied promotions after reporting that he heard the chief and other officials use insensitive language to describe certain groups.
I'm pleased with the settlement. I feel like I've been vindicated. I feel that it's fair compensation for all the injustice and distress that my family and I had to endure for the last 2 years.
Rosen settled his suit for more than $2 million. He also retired on Friday. That's part of the settlement. The Beverly Hills Police Department released a statement which in part reads, Mr. Rosen and his attorney are well aware that police personnel records are confidential, and the city is prohibited from discussing any discipline related to the chief, Mr. Rosen, or any Beverly Hills police officer.
LA County officially has a new sheriff.
Upon which I am about to enter.
Upon which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations, Sheriff.
Alex Villanueva was sworn in this morning at East LA College in Monterey Park. His wife, Vivian, who is also a deputy, was at his side. He now leads the largest sheriff's department in the nation. Villanueva defeated incumbent Jim McDonnell in a surprise upset in the November election. In remarks today, he said he has had a career of speaking truth to power. He also promised to empower communities of color.
You can expect some delays on the PCH as crews are going to be working on major repairs through the weekend. There are closures on the northbound side of PCH from Topanga to Decker Canyon roads. You may want to plan ahead to avoid it from 8:30 in the morning until 3:30 in the afternoon. That's tomorrow through Saturday. Construction workers started the repair work today. They brought out their power tools today to fix some damage from the Woolsey fire and the recent storm. Caltrans crews will be replacing guardrails. They're going to clear drainage lines and install netting along the burned hillsides, as well as other work to just try to begin restoring that area. A lot of work ahead.
That's for sure. I must say, guys, it felt like a SoCal December today.
Yeah, beautiful out there, you guys. Cool, nice. Got a nice little northwest breeze pack coming away. Beautiful sunset. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Hanukkah, day 2, and it is gorgeous out for it as well. 62 degrees right now. Let me spin you around the area, show you what's happening. Long Beach looking nice. Camarillo, 61 west-southwest winds, just at about 5 miles an hour there. Then we'll get you out towards Burbank, 63 degrees. It's that time of year we get parity on temperatures from the coast to the interior areas. Long Beach, 64. Humidity a little low there, but it'll start to climb right back up, and then we'll get you out towards Ontario. 63 southeast winds coming in just at around 7 miles an hour there. And for our friends up in the high deserts, not bad. 47 northeast winds coming in at 7 miles an hour. So we are tracking some rain for our friends in the burn areas. This system probably won't be as nasty as the last one, so that's good news. I'll explain it all to you coming up in just a few minutes. Happy Hanukkah, everybody. If you're celebrating, back to you guys.
All right, Garth, sounds good. Ahead at 5, a closer look at a pretty touching moment as we remember a former president.
President George H.W. Bush's service dog tugged at heartstrings in this viral photograph. But what's next for Sully now that his mission is complete?
I've got to go away. Baby, it's cold outside.
Yeah, it's a popular holiday song, and you know what? It's been banned from a radio station. It's in solidarity with the Me Too movement. We have reaction to a Christmas controversy.
Then a mom trying to help her teen get her first driver's license hits a roadblock with the DMV. So our 2 on your side steps in and gets results.